things like that. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. I'm feeling good about my box for this summer. So I don't know what else I need. The goal today, I'm still improving on this live fly tying, but I'll try to keep the camera in focus, and I'll try to keep the patterns moving. Yesterday we tied this little foam S popper, and it turned out, I'm pleased with how it turned out, but haven't been able to give it a swim test. The legs got a little bit mangled adding the popper, so we'll have to figure that better system for that. But my plan is just to kind of use the odds and ends I have on the desk and all the hooks that are sitting around. So that's my plan. The first thing I see is a big jig and a big bead. So we'll get started on this. Big jig, big bead. I think it would be nice to do another black stonefly nymph. So that's what we'll start with. Get our dark thread here. We use dark brown. Dark brown, I think, is an underrated color for thread. I don't tie with a lot of, like, just black thread, or white thread for that matter. I think dark brown is a good universal color. Same with olive. So replace your white with olive and replace your black with dark brown. Last time we tried to get fancy with the, well, maybe we just go dark brown. No, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We got our biot for the tail. Knock off a couple of those and tie in one on each side. And get the other side, and then I'll work the thread up. There, it's a little short. Give it a little tug. That's good. You know what? I'm kind of thinking a piece of the biot is kind of riding high. I'm gonna try to wrap it down. Instead of trimming those biots, I'm gonna incorporate them into the body. What was I thinking? Do a little black dubbing, a little rib action. Little rib action. use chartreuse wire for the rib. Where's the end of the wire here? I don't know how visible, so I'm going to use black rabbit for the abdomen, but I don't know how visible it's going to be with the wire. How visible the wire will be on with the black rabbit. I'll try to tie it sparse. I'll dub and rope here. That should be enough. Get that started. One wrap behind the wire. Coming up front. Wrap it pretty high. Then we can wrap the wire not too close. 4 turns. That's good. Trap it, lock it in, and then trim it out. Peacock curl. Pretty basic. Pretty basic. This one you can see has kind of a purple tip. It's dyed purple. I like that. Go ahead, wrap a hurl. And kind of sink that behind the bead as best we can. This would be plenty to fish with, but I'm gonna add some CDC. Maybe I have a feather going. Oh, I do. Here's a feather. We used half of it. We'll use just that little tip section for our legs. Clip it. And we can trim it out. And then we can split our thread. Open up the loop. Stick in the material, close the material in the loop. That's quite thick, so let's try to thin it out. That's okay. Spin it up, preen it, and then wrap it. And let our thread unravel. A little heavy on the bottom, but not too bad. I don't think we need to trim anything. So, great success. Let that unravel. We got a few more jig hooks sitting on the deck. We've got barred crystal flash, we've got dry fly hackles, got all sorts of stuff. I think that's enough. Go ahead and wrap or whip finish. I'm cinching that whip down behind the bead. I don't want any thread buildup behind the CDC collar. There we go. Good pattern. Let's get our small guy going here. We'll put a 2.8 on him. Lock him in. I'll thread dam behind the bead. Clip it out. So the size, I think this is a 14. You know, good size for pheasant tail, good size for hare's ear. Caddis larva, I'm trying to think. Oh, I don't know what we're tying. So we had this yarn we used last time. This is from the craft store. So we'll yank some of this out. Just a pinch. That's too much. Thin that out a bit. Let's see actually what we got. Thin it out a bit. That's good. I'm going to 50-50 it in. So loop it around the thread there. And then tie it pretty far back. And then we will get a little bit of peacock curl. There's a strand, there's a strand. Just picking up the random strands we got lying around. Here's a stripped quill, but that'll work. One more would be nice. If we can find it. I'm sure we can. Yes, we did. All right. So we got a little bunch of herl. Clip that out. Tie it in. And then we had our chartreuse wire we used for the other one. I'll tie it in. And then we can grab our yarn, kind of twist it a bit, one wrap behind the wire. We might need two wraps behind the wire. Spin it a little bit more. Spin it a little bit more. Spin it a little bit more. This is not, I prefer kind of a cream color. This is more of a mustardy brown color. This is a good color though for caddis larva. But I traditionally do more of a cream. So that's our body. Lock that in. Take that off. And then we have our peacock herl. We're gonna fold that back over. Let's clean this up a little bit before we do that. Fold this over like this. Lock it in. Trim it off. Then we have our wire. We'll use our wire to support the peacock herl. And this is a Colorado caddis, variation of it, which is a good caddis pattern. And the reason I like the peacock herl over the yarn, you could just do the yarn. The yarn will fish well. But I like color variation on my patterns. So from dark to light or something along those lines. I like the color variation. I also like a black head on my caddis larva. You could stop here, you could do some legs. I'm gonna do a loose dubbing rope of the black rabbit we used on the last pattern. Very loose. And create a little head there. And as time goes by, that rabbit will kind of tease out. You can tease it out, but that's a good caddis pattern. Wonder if we can get closer. Is that zoomed in? Yeah, that's a good one. Easy. Easy, easy, easy. You could fish this as a dropper or a point fly or just single. Fish a single nymph. Great. All right. Oh, we still have one more jig. Okay. So we did a little caddis larva. We did a little black stone. It's a 14. Good size. Good size for a guide's choice hare's ear. Oh, buddy. This is a good one. If you like to overcomplicate things, this is the pattern for you. I struggle with the tailing material. That's what I struggle with. What kind of material do you use for the tail? I have this spare, I think this is pheasant, it's dyed, but the base of the feather is olive, the tips are brown. I want to use those tips for the tail. And trim them out. Gather, check the length. Not perfect, but it'll do. Tie them in. Check the length. is good, a little long. All right. And go back with our chartreuse wire. We've got some copper. I've seen guide choice hare's ears tied with a crystal flash rib, and that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna use this crystal flash. Maybe I still will. Why the heck not? This is just a tiny little piece of crystal flash. We'll use that as a rib. And we can use some hare's ear. This is a darker hare's ear. I like this color. A darker hare's ear. Then we'll do a loose rope. Loose rope. Loose rope. Loose rope. Tighten up your rope. I started my rope a little far back, so I have to travel this thread up toward the crystal flash. We made it. And then I'll wrap around behind the crystal, in front of the crystal. Let's get our wraps a little tighter. Okay, I'm going to counter wrap with the crystal. It's looking good. I'm getting a lot of black. Not getting, one side of it's black, one side of it's silver, and I've twisted the side that's black, so only the black side showing. Let me try to get the silver side to show. The black looked good, but we kind of wanted the silver, if it's possible. I don't think I can. Maybe if I reverse it. Oh, there was the silver. There's the silver. Okay. Knock that off. You don't have to. We need a wing case and a thorax. The wing case is usually a flash, but I'm gonna do a olive brown ice stub wing case. Bear with me. So ice stub is nice and long. Even though it's all crinkled up, the fibers are really long. And so if you work it, you can get the fibers in line, and then it pulls pretty taut, like so. So there's not going to be too much shag, which the shag is okay, but we're going to fold that over for our wing case. A little UV ice stub. And let's get the thorax. Loose rope, loose rope, loose rope, very loose rope. And let's dub the thorax a little bit more. Too much. A little bit more. And the thorax, a little bit more. The thorax looks good. Let's fold over our wing case. That's good. Trim that out. You can leave, if you wanted to, you could leave quite a long tag on that wing case. You know, that works. If you want a bushier, flashier fly. But I'm going to trim it out. You might be tempted to add some legs. You could add some CDC legs, but there's already so much going on with this pattern. It's not necessary. Adding legs isn't going to really help anything other than your peace of mind. I would pick out the thorax a touch. I think that's a smarter move, just toward the thread head, not the whole thing. Just try to pick it out a little bit. And then you're going to need to trim it. There we go. And then we can trim it off. But that looks good. Looks good. Plenty of flash. Good color. The tail's a little bit odd. But that'll work. That'll do. All right. On to the next fly. What kind of hooks do we have lying around? We've got a shank. We do have a shank. We could, it's a little bit long. But I need a bigger, longer pattern. Trout streamer. So let's go for it. I'm gonna try to work that shank in line just a touch. If I can find my needle nose. Where be the needle nose? Maybe I cannot find the needle nose. It's not a big deal. I will start on this end. This side is a little bit straighter. So this will be our connection. And then we'll use that end, but still we have a little, if I tilt it like that and just tie, I think we'll be okay. I am gonna up the thread for this one. I was using a 8/0 uni dark brown. It's very thin. So we need a little bit beefier thread. Go with, what do we got here? Go with this Danville 210. Much beefier. Danville too tame. And go ahead and wrap that shank closed. This will be my inline, so I want to keep this straight, or just know that that's the inline. And then secure that shank. I like a little bit sparser. I like a little bit sparser profile for these trout streamers. I'm thinking marabou might be nice. I'm gonna clip off some of this. You could do the entire plumage, but that might be too much. Then I want a little bit of color variation. So traditionally white over olive over white would be the traditional. So here's my white. I want this as the underside. I guess it doesn't really matter. So flip it, trim it, and instead of tying all the way at the end, I'm going to tie in here because the shank is a little long. Wrap that, kind of distribute it on the underside, and then we'll come over with a little bit of olive. This feather is trash. We need another feather. Good thing we've got a lot of olive marabou. Okay. Same concept, just use some of the side. You don't need the whole thing tied in. It's gonna sit over top like so. Oh baby. Alright. Oh, did we get, yeah, I think we're still olive over white, but I should have cocked it a little bit more. We might be a little diagonally. The body I'm gonna wrap with mylar, but maybe not, because then I have to coat the mylar. I'm gonna do some lateral scale in the tail. Actually, there's a lot of loose mylar here, so I'm just gonna use this instead of the lateral scale. We'll do 2 pieces on each side of the pearl mylar, which we were gonna use for the body, but now we're not. We're gonna use something else. Trim that out. 2 pieces on each side. Good. Trim that out. That's good. For the sake of time, gonna use this dubbing, and I'm gonna do a loose rope. I'm not gonna loop it or spin it or go crazy like that. I'm just gonna do a loose rope like this, keeping it nice and shaggy. And then I'm going to wrap it. Wrap it. I don't care if it's wrapped on itself. In fact, I prefer it to be wrapped on itself. But I don't want the marabou wrapped in there. I'll stop right there. Then we can whip it. And whip it. And we can pick it. And this is a woolly booger. Gently pick it. I don't want to tear too much of it out. That's good. So this is our tail section for our articulated streamer. It should be sitting like this with the olive over the white like that. And it's doing an okay job of it, but it's a little bit crooked. Let's see if, ooh, we got a hook, but it's a little bit small. We need a bigger hook. Let's measure this. That's about as big as I would go for a trout hook. I don't like streamer articulated double hooks on streamers. Good morning, Mr. Abbas. Hello. So I think that is a single hook is fine. You could do a single hook off the back or a single hook on the front. I'm just gonna do a single hook on the front, but I think that's a good size. I have to think about weight too. How do I want to weight it, and how do I want and how much do I want to weight the pattern needs to be considered. I'm going to use the monofilament for the articulation. This is 10-15 pound mono. I'm not worried. The tail section isn't going to have a hook, so there will be no weight. It's not a load bearing connection. And then I'm also not going to put a bead. I'm going to, but I should tie it in a little bit further back. The tying point was horizontal, so the connection should be vertical. So I'm tying the mono on top, so it's running up and down. And then I'm gonna tie in or thread the shank onto the mono. That you don't need to make it tight here, but I want to measure it out, see what we're working with. Olive on top. Then I'm going to do several loose wraps all the way back, and then I'm going to draw it in to the desired length. length, and then I'm going to tighten down. I don't want this flapping too hard. So that's about good. Then we can tie up that mono. Normally I would double it back, but I'm not worried about it. And then a little drop of super glue is a good idea. Just for the purpose of longevity. And spread that around a little bit. Should be dry already. Now, planning. I think you'll need another wing. And I'm gonna tie it in. You don't have to use all of the hook. So I'm gonna tie the wing in kind of midpoint. We'll do some shaggy dubbing on the back half, wing up top, but I might skip the white. Do shaggy dubbing. On this back half. Pick that out a little bit, if you can. Incorporate that. I'm gonna do olive wing. Let's measure, that looks okay. Tie in the wing. That's good. Should I add white? I don't think I need to. That flat silver flash is plenty for the profile. The silver and the white are kind of blending in together. There's still color variation between silver and white, but we have to plan this head. I kind of want to use the craft store dubbing for the head. Kind of want to but it might be just too much material. We had some, I should have put a bead on there. I wonder if we have any dumbbell eyes. I don't think I do. How to weight this head. Wrapping some lead-free round wire isn't gonna do it. It's just not gonna be that heavy. It's not gonna make a significant difference. So you could leave it unweighted, which I think would be a great strategy. Or you could tie in like bars of weight, but that would build up the bulk. We're going with like a slimmer profile here. So we're gonna skip that. And we'll try to blend the color of this craft. For the green is nice. And then we can add a little bit of the tan to try to mute it. That's good. This is interesting. So the craft fur is quite long, and you could tie it in bunches and swoop it back so it incorporates into the wing. But I just want to build a head, and the fibers are long such that I could press it into this foam using a piece of monofilament like so. So I pressed it into the foam, and then I can clip it with this clip and remove it from the foam. And you could try to insert it in, but I'm going to trim it out. To try to get a little bit more bulk. So now we have a foam clip, and we're making a material loop right now. So we'll split our thread. It's not splitting very well. That's a good split right there. This is a waxed thread, which is not the right thread to be using. Oh, the loop is a bit short, but we'll just make it work. We'll make it work. Okay, material's in the loop. We're gonna lose some of it, but we'll spin up the loop. Because we did our loop so low, we're gonna we're going to have to wrap that thread. And then this is the first time I've looped this kind of yarn. I put in too much material, so it's spinning on itself, getting too tight, which is okay if you can try to pick it out a little bit. Now we'll use the rotary for this. We got to get rid of this excess thread we have here. Now we'll start wrapping our material nice and slow, nice and slow, nice and slow. I don't want to repeat that. That was not good. So I'm gonna pick this out a little bit. It's picking well. Pick it out a little bit more. Okay, that's good. Swooping it back. Looking good, looking good. I have some spare material from our brush. I'm gonna add a little bit of the tan. We have spare material from our body. I'm gonna throw that in. And then we have spare material from our ice dub, olive ice dub we used for a different fly. I'm gonna put that in. And then we have spare black dubbing. I'm gonna put that in. I'm gonna blend this up. Not blending, teasing it together. I'm gonna tease it together. And I'm gonna veil it. So it's kind of one mat. I'm gonna veil it onto the fly and fold it back on itself. And then one nice pinch wrap, pinch it all together. I'm gonna advance my thread and then we'll tie off. Slim profile, good color variation. What the heck is happening to this hook? Lots of bright flash, no weight. This is a very specific kind of streamer. This is the kind of streamer you would fish with a lighter rod if you were so inclined. This could be a 4-weight, 5-weight kind of deal. And then we'll brush that back. I'm new to fly fishing. How much time do I want? How much line do I want out of the tip of my rod before I cast? You're like 6 feet. You need to generate line speed. You need to load the rod. You need to have enough fly line out of the tip of the rod tip to load the rod. Some people can do it with a shorter amount. But if you're new to fly casting, you would need more. You'd need more line out to load it. And that line can be on the water. On the water is better. And that's called water loading. But if you're in a stream, I need to know more information to give you actually good advice on this. So where are you fishing? Are you fishing in a river? Are you fishing in a lake? Are you fishing out of a boat? Are you fishing from a dock? Where are you fishing? And how long should my leader be? And that's 6 feet of fly line, including the leader. No, that's just 6 feet of fly line. The leader itself, if you have a 9-foot rod, usually the leader's 9 feet. I'll be on a river and a lake. So if you're on the river, you can let the current take your line out. You can load the rod with the current of the river. So then your rod will be behind you. If this is your fly rod, your rod will be behind you, and then you can kind of flick that line forward and then start your cast, 1, 2, false cast. If you're on a lake, you might need to, and your line is piled up at your feet, you might need to roll cast one time to try to get that 6 feet of line straight, and then on your back cast, that tension from the surface of the water will be enough, and then you can go into your false cast 1, 2, and then cast, if that makes sense. I'm like, truthfully, I'm not a super caster. Not a super caster. I would like to get more material on this, specifically on this bottom section. The veil we did kind of thinned out. But that means I have to restart my thread. We have the material to do it, so I'm just gonna do it. And then restart my thread, get this situated again. Nice little pinch, tight, tight, tight. Finish it off. But back to the fly casting, so search, like loading the rod. Don't, like, people like to search how do you fly cast? You have to start the cast. That's a good point. That's a good point. Starting the cast before you actually learn how to cast. If you load it properly, you don't even need to false cast. You could go from 6 to 15, 20 feet of line if you could load it properly without going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Which, if you do that, it is better, because the more you false cast, the higher chance you get of tangling your fly line in a tree, creating a wind knot, having that fly bang you in the back of the head. All sorts of bad things can happen when you're out there flailing around. Cool pattern, essentially 3 materials: the marabou, the flash, and then the craft store for the head, craft store yarn for the head. We did put a few pieces of mylar in. Those, frankly, are not necessary. You could eliminate that and be fine. As I have been reviewing fly patterns, I have found the best patterns have 3 or less materials. Keep that in mind when you're at the fly shop looking at flies, or looking at people tying flies. If they're using 7, 8 different kinds of material for one pattern, number one, it's not economical, and number two, it's just not going to fish that well. There's just too much happening. Let's extend it to 4. 4 materials per fly is the way to go. Let's build this head a little bit more. A nice, I think, yeah, the red's kind of speaking to me. So we'll do a little red eye action. I hope you catch lots of fish, Hunter. Many, many fish. I'm clearing a landing spot, and I'm brushing the material down so it's lying flat. And then I'm gonna soak super glue into this wool head. It'll set quickly and it'll harden the head. But I want to aim higher rather than lower, because if it hardens down, then you will impede this hook point, and you'll have a fly that can't hook fish. So either right on the hook or slightly above it. And I'm going slightly above, letting it bead up and soak in. Drop on the eye. And then gently let it set. So it's on the material, but not pressing into the, keeping the head shape. I'm not gluing the eye onto the metal of the hook. I'm just soaking it and letting it react and then placing the eye. And so it kind of fuses together. It's a fusion. It's a fusion. And then when it fuses, it becomes solid. We can keep the shape of the head. It's not like flat pressed against the shank of the hook. That's good. I'm gonna roll a little bit on the bridge of the nose and then locking the thread together. Yeah. And now this is very solid. This is clear for hookups. The eyeball is solid. This eyeball is solid. You might lose it. But in that case, you just add another one if you're so inclined. The taper's interesting because the tail of the streamer is about as heavy as the head, so it's kind of flaring a bit. I don't think that's gonna matter. I think actually it'll be good. There's not a ton of movement in the articulation, but it does move a little bit. So I think that's good. And then there's a belly. That flash material is creating a belly, and then the olive is creating the back. You could even go darker on the back. But overall, I'm satisfied with the outcome of this one. I think that's enough ties for today. Let us review today's work. These were not tied today, so we'll remove those. We started with the black stonefly biop for the tail, black rabbit for the abdomen, wire rib, chartreuse wire rib, peacock for the thorax, and then finished with some CDC for the legs. Then we did a Colorado caddis, one of my favorites. We did the yarn, the same yarn we used for the head of this streamer. We corded it up and wrapped it for the body. Excuse me. The back is peacock herl folded over and then ribbed with the same chartreuse rib we used for that one. And then the head of our caddis is a loose black dubbing rabbit. This was our hare's ear, and we used crystal flash for the rib, some random pheasant fibers for the tail, hare's ear for the abdomen. The wing case is what is this? Ice dub. We used ice dub for the wing case, kind of teased it, flattened it out, and then the thorax is just loose rabbit, picked out, no legs. So that's just the variation of guide's choice, hare's ear nymph, popular pattern. This is a variation of a Colorado caddis. It used to be popular pattern, not so much anymore. This is just a simple generic black stonefly. This one, we started with a shank, but we left quite a bit of it untied. So we tied halfway up the shank, and then we did olive marabou over white with pearl mylar on the tail, loose dubbing rope of some silver flashy dubbing picked out, and then the head of the fly we did the same body material, olive marabou wing, and then a spun material loop of this kind of craft store yarn material, blended with just the odds and ends we had, and then we glued on some eyes. So that was today's ties. Very nice. Thank you for watching. See you next time.